Well, officially for the audience, welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us, this is the Enterprise Exchange podcast. I'm Matt Nelson with Peachtree Rose Marketing, filming in Peachtree Rose Marketing Podcast Studios. This is a podcast that we put together after the Build a Better Business Mastermind, typically hosted by Darius Traynor, Carlos De Leon, and Maisie Beauvais.
Yes.
I
always chop it up too.
And usually you'll find the four of us, and sometimes it might be less, and maybe one day more in this capacity in podcasting right after that mastermind, just to kind of add a little bit more depth and hopefully some value from our different experience levels. But I want to pass this off to let you introduce yourself as well, sir.
Yeah. Well, my name is Carlos De Leon, and I am the owner and founder of Delcico Consulting. I am a leadership coach and business consultant, and recently first-time author
That's right.
of my leadership book. And happy to do this. This is awesome. It's a great group that Darius kind of started, invited us, and it kind of morphed from there. So hopefully we can add some value to a lot of business owners that are walking through the same things that we are or have experience. And not only that, but we'll learn from them as well. Today It was very interesting.
Today was very interesting.
Very educational.
Yeah, it's fun. We had a lot of new faces, which is always good to see, and sometimes unexpected, because we do have some folks who come religiously every first and third Wednesday of the month. And for those who haven't, it's the first and third Wednesday of the month, Build a Better Business Mastermind, and it's 9:30 to 11 typically in the morning. But yeah, we had some new faces, and I would say not some new struggles. It sounds like marketing is still a very common struggle, and you could tell there were folks who were in different phases in their business or different life cycles of new businesses in the room as well. But I would say marketing was definitely one that I tuned into from a typical problem set that we're seeing with business owners. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. And I think today was a great example of different business owners, different industries, and how much they struggle with marketing and in all sorts of ways. You know, believing in marketing is huge. And it's amazing to me that it doesn't matter how new you are to business or how far along you're into business, that you don't put marketing up front and center of your business.
Yeah.
You know, I made this mistake when I first started. I had no idea. I was against marketing because I've been in manufacturing and operations my entire corporate career, and I would literally hated the marketing people and the sales guys, because they would promise the world to the field, and we had to make it happen, right? Until I opened my first business. And I had how do people know that I exist?
Yep.
How do I tell people what I do and what I sell? Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you start talking to people, and here's to me was the interesting part of today, because I lived through that. When I went to my first marketing firm, as a rookie entrepreneur, as a rookie brand new business owner, I had no idea what questions to ask. I had no idea how much I should spend. I had no idea any of that stuff. So I was taken advantage of by somebody that said, oh yeah, I promise you the world and you're going to get all of this. And I believed that. And unfortunately, that's what showed up today. It's like, I'm not the only one. There's many people out there call themselves marketers or agencies. They just do this cookie cutter, as you know, to use your terms, where they think it's going to work for everybody. It doesn't. It has to be very personal. It has to be a relationship. They have to get to know me and my business and what I offer before they can even come up with some solution. So you can't guarantee anything unless you know me. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that was a great point. So how do we educate business owners how important this is?
You know, you and I had touched on something just before we hit record, and that was, there were different demographics in the room, not just different business industries, but also different ages. And sometimes with age comes, whether or not somebody can adapt quicker to technology or something new. And in business, especially these days, it's just going to become exponentially faster in terms of the change in technology and ways you can market yourself in particular. And I know, one individual touched on his bad experiences with different, I'm assuming, cookie cutter marketing agencies. And it sounded like it was the same particular vehicle in marketing was his website. He was being sold on, it being a sales vehicle, probably for his business. And it's funny, I don't know that he fully understood necessarily what was being said before you even get to the website part, which is the free resource from a digital marketing sense, which is the Google Business Profile. And I know Ruby, another business owner, she's capitalized on that, but it sounds like she's also pretty good at doing her own marketing as a solopreneur in the digital sense. But your Google Business Profile is one of the, in my opinions, one of the key free resources you should tackle from a digital marketing standpoint in creating that Google Business Profile to be able to collect reviews, have some sort of a digital base where people can springboard from. It's not your owned platform. It's not your website. So there's pros and cons, right? But that, along with your social media presence, that's all free because, in essence, you are the product, right? If someone pulls up Google Maps as an app on their phone and they're looking for hair care, beautician near me, or barber shop, or carpet cleaning business near me, there's a few things that feed into the algorithm to be able to show what's near you. And that's a common use of a Google Business Profile and how it's used from the consumer end and how you show up as a business. And all you need to do is make sure your Google Business Profile is optimized and managed.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I actually give free workshops on how to set up, how to use your Google My Business Profile. I've done this many times for business owners because I think it's just one of the best platforms to help. So I am of the age that I use Yellow Pages. Yeah. They existed in my time, right? And back then, when you needed something, you went to the Yellow Pages.
Wait, do you mean yp.com?
Yeah, right? So, and now everything, I think 99% of us, when we go to a new restaurant, when we need a new service or anything, what do we do first? We Google it. We don't Bing it. We don't, maybe now with AI, we probably ChatGPT it, which is also helps, but it always goes back to that, right? So we Google it. So if we're not tapping into that. And when I teach this Google Business workshop, I teach him to use it as a social media platform because you can post on it as well. And the posting in there with your keywords is amazing what it does to get you in those first pages. And this is all free. I mean, you have to abide by the rules because they're very strict. Mm-hmm. So you can get suspended right away. Yep. So you have to kind of do your homework and learn where to stay in. But it helps immensely. I've used it for many, many, many years. And I've been suspended because I broke the rules, so I had to learn the hard way. But they forgive you pretty fast, as long as you learn and keep doing that. So I cannot stress enough how important it is for any business, whether it be service, especially if you have a brick and mortar, you have a physical location, you should have one. If you don't have one, you're missing out.
Oh, yeah. Huge opportunity lost if you have a brick and mortar place or you're doing business from somewhere else outside your home. And I would suggest on that, do your best not to have your home address as your Google Business Profile address for a number of reasons. And I'm no attorney, but I would advise probably not the best legal decision to do that if you are mixing the two. It's up there with keeping personal and business finances separate. It opens you up to potential liability. But also from a marketing, perspective, you want to maintain a professional, profile, look, appearance for your business. And, someone
Brand.
showing up and slipping on your driveway is probably not going to do that.
Yeah.
And we're filming this in a podcast studio that's right in our backyard. It's one of our offices we rent at VentureX San Antonio Northwest, which is a co-working space. Depending on your budget, there are ways to show up and have a professionalized Google Business profile where you don't necessarily have to have a brick and mortar place. And that's one of the resources that they offer here. So if you're starting out in business and you're trying to figure out how to get a digital footprint in the door, your Google Business profile is one of the budget-friendly first levers to pull.
Yep.
And ideally with some guidance from a digital marketing perspective that doesn't cost you money up front.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. That's great advice. Having a virtual address, that kind of protects your business, protects your privacy, protects you personally. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And it provides those avenues for social proof as you go on to collect reviews. If you are in the startup phase of your business and you don't have any reviews, I always like to suggest, depending on the business model and depending on what your loss leader is from a business perspective, if you can do a product or service at a discounted rate or even for free to some extent in exchange for valuable feedback you'll act on, as well as a review and a referral, that's well worth its weight in gold in terms of the exponential dividends that would provide you. With that, that element of social proof and being able to collect those reviews, that feeds into the know, like, and trust factor for a business.
Yeah.
And along with that, and talking again along the avenues of free digital marketing resources, social media profiles. Let me get your take on this. From your perspective, Carlos.
Yeah, so I can tell you that by my own experience, I would say 99% of my clients come from social media, specifically LinkedIn, because that's where my client base lives.
Love that you mentioned it that way.
I am present in TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, which they don't really bring me the customers, but I feel important that the brand goes across platforms. Mm-hmm. But for my specific client base, LinkedIn is the best option. But it goes to the same thing. So use all the free resources they give you. Kind of, you have to learn a little bit. It's not that difficult, right? But having that presence, that personal brand is so important. And I can tell you how much I struggle with this. And even today, is because I'm not a marketing guy. I was always a manufacturing and operations behind the scenes type of guy. I was never up front and center. So now my business is me. My business is my face.
You are the brand.
Right? I am the brand.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of come to grips in the past year and a half. I just decided to do it. And to this day, I have a hard time making videos on my own. I absolutely despise it. But I know the importance of it. I haven't come to understand that, hey, I have to do this. I want to continue to grow my business. So you kind of have to, get out of your comfort zone and do things that are hard, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yeah.
But I think social media is the way to go no matter what. And then you're talking at a different level. I'm just saying free resources. That's what we're talking about, right? That's step one. If you don't believe in this, do all the free stuff. Learn all the free stuff. If you don't know how, ask for help. There's many people that would help you do this before you start tapping into the paid advertising, which is also extremely powerful, which I also use. And I actually learned myself to do it because I was, again, burned by other marketing agencies. Mm-hmm. I had to learn it myself. So I actually became like a Google Ads certified.
Nice.
And I even thought about offering this service, but that's not me. That's not what I do, right?
Yep.
It's not. You
it's
stay
not
in your
focus.
wheelhouse, right?
Yeah,
so you hire the expert. But I did it only because I wanted to understand it, right? So I think my key word here is educate yourself. Yes. Learn what's going to work for you. So maybe for your business, Facebook is your jam. So stay there. Pick one and be consistent. But for their business could be LinkedIn. For the business could be X, right? So you have to find which one works for your business. And the key is consistency, even in the hard days. Because if you give up, you disappear, right? That's I guess that's the counterpart of the digital age. You can show up really quickly, but you can also disappear very quickly.
Yep.
And be overshadowed by 100 other ones, right? So how do you stand out? You have to be consistent.
Yeah, we've, for our services in marketing, we've niched into a lot of content marketing for those reasons. It provides a layer of authenticity you don't get in other digital marketing facets, which I prefer in working with other businesses because you can not only build a parasocial relationship or a one-way relationship with a potential audience, but anytime someone's looking you up. So I want to know more about Carlos de Leon before I actually ask him any business-related question, right? So they're going to go to your social media, right? And they're also going to maybe look you up in other facets and say, oh, well, they talked about this for this amount of time, so I can spend some time with that person before I'm actually investing time with that person. I don't want a relationship with him yet. I want to see if it's right for me. I want to see if the personality meshes well. I want to see if I know, like, and trust that person. There's an entrepreneur out of the UK. I think he's Australian by birth, but Daniel Priestley, he's a phenomenal marketer. He has run and started up numerous multi-million-dollar companies, but he has a framework called the 7-11-4 framework, and that's showing up, and it's behaviorally science-based, and it's showing up for at least 11 hours in front of people across 11 touch points on 4 platforms, and that bleeds over to social media really well. And kind of is a cornerstone of why we've flagshipped into some of our services like video podcasting. That long form content we're able to multi-purpose, and we can help people show up among different platforms in a more consistent way, but with that layer of authenticity just through conversational content. Yep. And I'm not saying you have to go do a video podcast, but it is an easier way of getting your reps in without having to feel like you're talking at your phone to the ether and feeling super uncomfortable with that red light or red dot syndrome of filming yourself.
Yeah. And this is so much easier.
Yeah.
So again, as I kind of describe myself, I hate doing it where I have to kind of film myself and talk to my phone and I feel weird. And I don't, I look myself and I don't feel genuine.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm reading a script, right? But in this setting where you're actually talking to another human, it's just a conversation. It really is.
Exactly.
And that really comes across as this is me. This is who I am. This is how I talk. This is what I think. This is what I believe. This is what I do. So advice would be tap into as guest in any podcast of your niche.
Yes.
Find one. There's so many now, so many opportunities. Try to be a guest somewhere. If you don't want to start your own, you don't have to, right?
And if you're in the San Antonio area, I encourage you, go to sanantoniopodcasting.com. It's an ecosystem we're helping build out with other studios, other podcast shows. And we're trying to create an ecosystem of subject matter expert guests or, people in a particular field who have depth of knowledge to speak on a subject, right? So guests, as well as particular shows who need guests, as well as studios. And even if you're not in a studio and you're filming, or I say filming because video is kind of the way to go in podcasting, right, these days. But whether or not you're recording your stuff in your basement and you're taking on guests in the virtual sense, it's a great stepping stone place to start and kind of building out that ecosystem. So I encourage you to check that out. But also, you bring up a good point. You don't have to go start your own thing. And we kind of touched on that, I think, in the last episode from a networking standpoint. If you're not finding your right networking group, and I feel like we have a very strong value add for this particular networking group that we have, starting your own might be the thing to do. And similarly, if you're not finding, the right spot to get your content out there as a guest and you want to get content out there, maybe starting your own is the way to go. And maybe it's vice versa. Maybe you don't want to start your own, but you just want to get your reps in, being a guest on a podcast is a great way to go, for sure.
Yeah, I agree completely.
And if you can provide that layer of value for a podcast show's guests or audiences, rather, that's an easy way of climbing your way up a podcast pyramid as a guest and saying, okay, I was on this show with so-and-so, and their show usually gets 100 views. Now, when I was a guest, they got 260 views. So it shows you my value. And you can basically take that to another podcast show's manager or the host themselves and say, hey, would love to be on your podcast. I think I've got a value add bit of information for your audience. And then you get to inherit some of their audience as well.
Right.
But to your point on the cringeworthy filming yourself and just getting through those layers of uncomfort, the cringeworthy moments, the cool thing is if you haven't started doing it yet, you probably don't have enough of a base that's used to consuming that type of content for yourself. So when you're putting it out there, maybe you get a couple of views. That's actually not a bad thing when you're still getting your reps in. And luckily, because in particular short form content that's put on social media, because it has a shorter lifespan, because of the sheer amount of stuff out there, it gets buried pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So if it's not filmed the right way, if it doesn't resonate with the right target audience based on the content type and the algorithm on that particular platform, the benefit is it goes to the bottom. And if you've got the stumbles and the ums and uhs, that's okay, but you're getting your reps in. Yep. And if you can commit to yourself, hey, once a month, I'm going to film myself for 60 seconds. And I'm going to talk, I'm just going to do my pitch if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you got to pitch yourself on social media. Maybe it's entertaining. Maybe it's educational. Whatever the case is, give yourself 60 seconds and you're going to say, I'm going to post it no matter what. Do it once a month. And then go from once a month to every 2 weeks. And then from every 2 weeks to every week. And then maybe a couple of times a week. Just build that consistency, get the reps over time, and then start to notice what is working and what isn't. Measure that, and then maybe try a new thing. And you're talking about a script. There's another marketer, entrepreneur, well-renowned marketer, Alex Hormozy.
I know who he is, yeah.
And a lot of people do, and some people don't. One of the things that I listened to in a piece of his content recently was he would put his sales reps through this when they had to read a script. And that was they would print out exactly what they wanted to say. And what they would do is they would read it one time, word for word, just reading the script.
Yeah.
And then they'd go through the second run through and they'd pick a word and they'd scratch through that word. And then they'd read it again. And then on the third run through, they'd pick a third word, or a second word rather, and they'd scratch that one out. And they'd rinse and repeat until they've gone through it until all you see is a completely redacted, document that's all black, from being scratched out. Yeah. But by then they've memorized it. And all of those reps they've done in between, they've actually not only practiced memorizing it, they've practiced, okay, I put a point of inflection on this part because it's more important.
Yep.
People will tune in that way. And that arguably is the delivery on social media that people need to practice. But I thought that was a pretty good exercise.
Yeah. That's actually pretty cool. I'm going to use that. Because, see, I record myself once a month for about an hour. Yeah. And I give it all to my social media manager who makes short videos and then posts them all over the place, right? Once I see the final product, I sort of like it. And some I'm like, man, yeah, that don't sound genuine. Or I hear my voice shaking, but nobody knows that, right?
You know it.
I know it.
Because you're your worst critic.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I've seen that the more I do it, the better at it you get.
True.
You speak clearly, you speak better. So it's all about consistency and practice, right? But that is a good one because I hate reading off a script. Because it doesn't sound like me, even though I wrote it. I wrote the script. I knew what I wanted to say. It's my own words, it's my own script. But it literally sounds like I'm reading a book, right? Yep. Like with a blank stare, and I just don't like it. Somebody else sees it, they don't see that.
Yep.
They just see, oh yeah, he's saying something, but it doesn't feel natural to me. I have this friend, his name is Matt. He is a natural, he's just one of the smartest people I know. And he has created this courses online on video in one take. They're hours, in different modules. And I said, "Well, how do you practice for this? Are you reading the script?" He goes, "No, it's just off my head." I'm like, that's a gift, man. The rest of us have to practice.
And you know who also has that gift? Darius.
He does, yeah.
The first time he filmed in this studio, because there was going to be a Build a Better Business Mastermind that he was going to miss. And it was one of the earlier ones. And it was a last minute thing. He had to fly out. He was actually...
I remember seeing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was going to go help out at someone's wedding. And I think it was 2 takes, and they were pretty much the same. I mean, the words were different.
Yeah.
It was all there. It was an editor's dream. I'll say that much.
Here's something. So Darius used to be a pastor.
Yep.
My friend Matt used to be a pastor.
And I think a lot of that is getting the reps in.
Right.
But that's the other beautiful part of making yourself do content marketing. And I don't say go hire a marketing agency to help you do that. Literally just making yourself and holding yourself accountable to putting in the reps and the practice. Because what I've found is when I am having those business discussions that are not filmed, I'm better able to articulate our value proposition, and I'm better able to actually have those conversations because it's so fluid, because I'm so used to having them behind a mic and a camera.
Yeah.
So that's the added benefit there as well.
I agree. So even if you're not an expert in content, the more you're involved in the process, the more it comes from you, the more genuine it'll sound every time you have to speak to it. So that's great point.
And it, again, adds that layer of authenticity for the entire business if you can put a face behind the brand, which a lot of people miss. And in the days of regurgitated AI fluff on social media, that is the cut through, I would say. But, going back to today, I know we had a bunch of folks from different industries who are coming from, different facets of or starting points in their business or restart points. We had a story of resiliency for another business where it sounds like it was a phenomenal business and doing really well. And because of external market factors, he had to rebuild. And those external market factors being COVID in this particular case, and he's on that journey of rebuilding in that resiliency that comes with it. And I think even before we got to that story, we heard someone who had voiced the initial pain point for a lot of business owners, market factors, the economy.
Yep.
And it can be easy to blame the economy. And I think it was said in so many words, yes, that can happen, but you can kind of build your own economy. And there was some pretty solid advice in the audience on that one too, I think.
I agree. And I think it's so crucial to have as part of your business plan or you're there today or your strategy to always mitigate risk.
Mm-hmm.
You regardless of what industry you're in, you should always consider the worst case scenario and kind of prepare for that, right? Mm-hmm. Have a plan for it at some point. And I think a lot of us miss that.
Yeah.
So today we're a great example as to he even recognizes like I learned so much from it that now I'm not going to make the same mistakes and kind of prepare myself in case something like this happens again.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think a lot of us miss that. We think it's going to be, hey, I just keep selling and selling and selling. And then when you don't, we tend to blame others. But a lot of it is us. We didn't prepare correctly. We didn't mitigate risk.
Yep.
So.
And I think as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, most of us fall into the category of being a futurist and living in the most optimal version of the future because that's where we see business. And that's one of the things, one of the motivating factors.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to overlook unless you've got a panel of advisors and external people who can put you in check and reality check sometimes. And sometimes reality just hits you with that before someone else does.
Yeah. And I don't... this is where I advise for any business owner to get a coach. Get a business coach. If you're struggling, if you have a lot of doubts, get a business coach. Trust me, it'll be a great investment for you. Whoever is next door to you, whoever is the closest to you, whoever you trust, or do your homework, find the coach you're going to relate to. But having a business, I think every entrepreneur should have a business coach, unless you're like a superhuman.
Yeah.
Business coaches do help.
And business coaches have business coaches is something that
Yeah,
I've been finding
absolutely.
out.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yep. I actually had a few throughout my life. And now we kind of are friends, and we have our own mastermind as, coaches in many different fields, and we just help each other. So having that, even to this day, I used to do a lot of business coaching at the beginning of my consulting career. And to this day, I still have clients that have me on retainer, and we speak once a month. They just want to have that conversation and have that reach where it says, I need to have this. I need to, unload on somebody that is going to see it my way or kind of help me or kind of guide me this way. So even if it is for that, but once you see the value of it, and then trust me, you get it 10 times back. But unfortunately, it's the same scenario as bad marketers and bad marketing agencies. There are many bad coaches. Or somebody that just slapped a label and said, "Oh, I'm a coach now," right? And you have no business being a coach. Yeah. You have no business, no experience. You haven't tasted failure. You haven't tasted what it actually takes to do this.
Yeah, that 20-year-old life and business coach.
Right. Exactly. Right. So there's a lot of that. So that kind of brings down the credibility of the rest of us who actually put in the reps and put in the time and have the actual experience and know-how, right? And that's what we have to fight through.
It's true. Any final points on your end?
No, I think this is good.
So for anybody who's listening for the first time, if you got value from this, encourage you to subscribe so you can get more content like this and provide that level of depth that we're looking to do right after these masterminds. If you haven't come out to the Build a Better Business Mastermind, it's held on the first and third Wednesdays of the month here at VentureX San Antonio Northwest, typically again by Darius Trainer, myself, Matt Nelson with Peachtree Rose Marketing, and Carlos De Leon and Maisie Buffet. Her name.
I know.
It's the last name. I can't do Cajun names very well. I say it's a Cajun name. I just know she's coming from Louisiana. So.
Yeah, it's French.
She would correct me, I'm sure. But
yeah.
thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks a lot.